Hello there, Dave here, and before we get to today's episode about Metal Gear Solid 3, there are actually a lot of announcements. The first one is that Tales from the Backlog stands with all of the actors currently on strike for fair treatment and protections and fair pay and all of that from a lot of companies that make video games and may look to exploit them in the future without those protections. So, I want to get that out there because this episode today is about a game that has presumably union members in the cast, and I want to throw my support their way in the ways that I can. Also, over on the Patreon this month, we had the bonus Tales from the Way Backlog episode about Metal Gear for the MSX, and also the full version of the Elden Ring DLC episode is for all patrons, so a lot of bonus content this month. And also, want to say thank you to the people who help support the show over there on Patreon. Big shout out to Chris Nelson, the Top 3 Podcast crew, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Jill, Jeff, formerly Jerf, Kieran, Soccer, ZNA, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S, Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Randall, Jake Martin, Jenny E, Kurt Mattis, and a new patron, Reese. Thank you all for your support, and with all of that being said, let's get on to Metal Gear Solid 3. Hello everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, and you're listening to Tales from the Backlog. This is a video games deep dive review podcast where each week I'm joined by a guest to bring a game out of the backlog, play it, and discuss. My guest today is a friend of the show, one of the hosts on Left Behind Game Club and Cutscenes podcasts, and she can cook a 5-star dish out of a python and some wild mushrooms. Welcome to the show, Katie Lesperance.
Damn straight I can. That
That's
actually
right.
sounds pretty good, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I was putting that together. I was like, you know what? Like preparation, little fire going on. I dig it.
Thank you for having me on, though. I am excited.
Of course.
And you gave me an excuse to replay Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and it was a lovely time.
Don't put all of that on me. I gave you the chance to play Metal Gear Solid 3, and you took it upon yourself to replay all of them leading up to it. But today we are going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which is a stealth action game developed and published by Konami for the PS2 in 2004, and it had an updated version with the subtitle Subsistence that was later released in 2005. Previously on Tales from the Backlog, I have episodes about Metal Gear Solid. That's episode 61 with Mick Arcade, Metal Gear Solid 2, that is episode 105 with Cade from Gaming Memories, and perhaps most importantly for us here today, episode 84 of Tales from the Backlog is about Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance with one Jacob McCourt. So we have lots of Metal Gear history on the podcast, and we are going to tackle Metal Gear Solid 3 today. If this is your first time listening to the show, thank you for stopping by. Here's how the spoiler policy works for Metal Gear Solid 3 today. We are not going to spoil the story for a while. We're going to talk about other story things, but we're not going to spoil what happens in the game. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can listen to this show for quite a while, and you can check down in the show notes for a timestamp for when the spoilers begin. So with that being said, what is Metal Gear Solid 3? We have prepared some quick pitches for you. I say Metal Gear Solid 3 is the exact moment in gaming history when nobody could say no to Hideo Kojima anymore. Katie, what would you say?
Go. That's pretty accurate. I've got two. I've got Hideo Kojima took a nature survival course and got really, really into it. Like it took over his life.
Yeah, he watched Man vs. Wild a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my other one is basically so what the game actually is. It's basically like James Bond if he was one of the castaways in the 2004 hit show Lost.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah.
Weird things happen in that place, and we don't follow the rules of nature sometimes.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's a secret smoke monster boss that I missed in Metal Gear Solid 3, but let's see here. So I played this on Steam Deck. I played the subsistence version emulated. It took me about 15 hours to beat. Katie, this most recent time, how did you play this? How long did it take you?
I played the HD re-release on the PS5. How did it play on Steam Deck?
The Steam Deck emulator slowed down during cutscenes, so I actually had to watch the last cutscene on YouTube because it was playing at half speed on the Steam Deck. But other than that, all the gameplay stuff was perfectly fine.
Nice.
Yeah. About 15 hours sound about right to you to beat this?
For a normal person, yes. For me, who I had not played this game in a long time, and I got really, really into it, and I played too much. Too much. So I played probably near 20.
Okay.
But yes, it's actually about 15-ish.
Okay, I thought you were about to pro gamer me and be like, well, for normal people, 15. For me, it was like 7, 8 hours. So we always get started by talking about our history with the series and with this game in particular. So I asked you to come on this episode because I know you have a history with Metal Gear Solid as a series. So tell everybody about that. And then when did you first play Metal Gear Solid 3? Yeah,
I'm a pretty big Metal Gear fan. Not like the biggest. I have gaps. The main series, I've played 1, 2, 3, and 5. I wanted to play 4, but that was a time in my life when my gaming motion sickness was at its peak, and I physically couldn't play it, and it was really upsetting. And then I haven't touched the other side games, which is too bad because I hear that some of them are very, very good, and I've wanted to. And it was just, I don't know, it didn't work out that I was able to play them easily, and now it's harder. But they're kind of on my backlog of I need to get to those side games. And Metal Gear Solid 3 I played pretty much when it came out. So I was a teenager.
So this is your second time playing it then for the podcast here?
I probably played it 3 times through in my teens.
Nice.
I've played it multiple times, but it's been a big gap since then. It's probably been a good 15 to 18 year gap since I last played it. So I was really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a bit of a double-edged sword going back to those games for the first time, since you were a teenager, for sure. For me, this was my first time playing Metal Gear Solid 3 for the podcast here. I've been working my way through, like I said, those other past Metal Gear Solid episodes of the podcast, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and then Rising. Those are all me playing those games for the first time. So I am a first-timer working my way through the series. Metal Gear Solid 4 is coming up next. By next, I mean it'll be on the podcast in 7 months or something like that. So that's the plan. My first Metal Gear game, or a little bit of weird trivia, was Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel on the Game Boy Color, the first Metal Gear game I played.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a Game Boy Color game. I couldn't tell you anything about the story. I never beat it. But I did have it for the Game Boy Color, and it looks like the original Metal Gear, that top-down type of look.
The old Nintendo games, like Metal Gear 1 and 2. Okay.
Metal Gear, yeah. So I did play that, and then I've played Rising Revengeance 3 or 4 times now. I fucking love that game. But I was really excited to get to Metal Gear Solid 3 because this is the game that everyone says oh, you liked the first one? Or you liked Metal Gear Solid 2? Just wait till you play 3. 3 is the best one. Everyone says 3 is the one. So to get into our quick opening thoughts before we dive in, after playing this, I can see why people would say that this is their favorite one, especially this to this point in the series. The gameplay is the most diverse and varied of the series so far. The storytelling is more you said, it was like a Bond movie, and I totally agree. The story makes a lot more sense in this game. It's also, I think, the most emotional story in the series so far. And so if you're looking for a story that's going to touch you in a way, 3 is going to be the one of the first 3 to do that for you, I think. So I liked this game going through the story and stuff. I had a bit of trouble with the controls and the gameplay. It's always a little bit of a struggle with this. When you go back to PS2 games, it's always a bit of a struggle with controls. But I did get through it. It was a little bit cumbersome at times, but never like stopped me from playing it entirely. And I did appreciate all of those weird little gameplay touches that this game introduced. So after playing it, I like this game a lot. I can see why it's a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear Solid game. Yeah, we will obviously have a lot of time to dig into that. So that was my experience with playing this for the first time. And Katie, like I said before, it's kind of a double-edged sword when you go back to these games after a really long time. So how did you find it after, 20 years or so revisiting it?
Only 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what? It's still really good. I still really, really like it. I agree that I think it's the best of the main series. Obviously, I've not played 4 because 5 just obviously Kojima did not get to finish that exactly the way he wanted, and you can feel it. Whereas, the gameplay obviously is great in 5, but 3 is where, like you said, it really kind of opens up. And out of this solely 90-degree angles, like there's your little map on the top corner, where your cone of visions are. Like it felt very, as you're playing it, almost like paint by numbers, like exactly where you're going and what to do. Whereas this, it opens it up as far as environment. You have more options, you have more items. The items that you have to use for locating enemies makes it so you kind of have to be more on your toes, and you can't just rely on one thing all the time. I like the environments. I like the mixture. Whereas before it was like sometimes you're outside for a little bit, but it's very brief. This, you get a bigger, bigger mix of different places that you're in and different strategies you have to use. The story, like you said, is the best so far in that it's weirdly more grounded, which is a strange thing to say for a Kojima game, even though the story is crazy. It's
crazy
ridiculous
thing to say about a game that has a man made of bees.
Yeah. No, this is super grounded and like a spider guy. But like it has an emotional core and like an actual plotline story with an emotional core that gives you something to care about. Whereas like 1 and 2, like the end of 2, like I don't care. It's so big and ridiculous and it doesn't mean anything. Like it's cool and it's fun, but it doesn't there's something to dig into here. And it's still great. It's a little cumbersome, but I don't think it controls badly. One of the things with the controls is that there are things that you cannot do now. Whereas because I think it was PS3 had PS2 or PS3, it had PS2. That pressure sensitive face buttons. So you could, when you held people up with your gun, if you like slowly released on the button, you wouldn't shoot. So you could like aim at somebody and then put your gun down without shooting. Whereas now you have to like unequip and re-equip. There's like some things you have to do to navigate your way around how the controllers are set up. But once you get past that, it's still such a good game. I had so much fun playing this.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, we got a lot to dig into. So let's get a bit of music going. And then when we come back, we will set up the story for Metal Gear Solid 3. Metal Gear Solid 3 is a prequel to other events in the series, and if you're looking at the Metal Gear canon timeline, it is the first game in the canon timeline. So this is set in an alternate history. The story takes place in 1964 after the resolution of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And in this version of history, the Soviets agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba along with missiles from Turkey and Italy in exchange for the United States giving over a rocket scientist, a defector from the Soviet Union named Nikolai Sokolov. And a lot of the early game missions revolve around helping to rescue Sokolov. That's one of the things that gets you into the first mission in the game. In this, you play as a CIA operative codenamed Naked Snake, who's voiced by David Hayter, just like Solid Snake, who's the protagonist in Metal Gear Solid 1, but they're different because there are multiple characters with the same name in this series. We have multiple snakes. We have multiple people named Boss throughout the series. I was a little bit confused by this at the very beginning until I was, wait, this takes place 40 years before Metal Gear Solid 1. It can't be the same guy. Even though the guy in the first game's a clone, it's a whole fucking thing with these characters. So an early inciting event in the game is that Snake's mentor and a maternal figure named The Boss, that's capital T, capital B, The Boss, who's voiced by Lori Allen, defects from the United States. And in doing so, she gives a local opposition leader some nuclear warheads, which he promptly uses to nuke a building in the jungle. The Soviets see that a nuclear bomb has been set off, and there was an American plane in the area, so they blame the Americans. And in order to prove that The Boss actually defected, the Americans are tasked with going and killing her, and Snake is sent on that task. So when you said, Katie, that there's an emotional core in this game, which I totally agree with. This is the emotional core. It is this relationship between Snake and the boss, and the fact that she was his mentor, and then she defected, and now he's sent on a mission to go kill her. We have a little bit of tug of war between like this relationship between them, and then this theme of duty that's brought up throughout the game, you know, do your duty as a soldier type of thing. When we say this game has a good emotional core, this is it. And I thought that this was what kind of elevates this story above Metal Gear Solid 1 was like a roller coaster, and Metal Gear Solid 2 was like this meta thing mixed with a philosophy TED talk. This is the one that takes it to like a pop culture level that a lot of people can get behind, I think.
Yeah, exactly. From the relationship between the characters in the game, whereas like also 1 and 2, the intercharacter relationships are they're not much there. They're like there's Snake and Liquid Snake in the first one, but they're just kind of Liquid Snake's just kind of the big villain. Like it's just the protagonist against the villain. It's not complicated.
Yeah, he's just there yelling most of the time.
Yes. Oh my God, he loves to yell. He loves a good yell. Also, the boss is badass. I love the boss.
Yeah.
Anytime she has that thing, this poise when she's in a scene where you're just like, oh, like she's in charge. Like she knows what she's doing. She has a plan. She's the boss, and she might not tell you what the plan is, but like she has a plan.
Yeah.
The boss is fantastic.
There's a couple times when like Snake comes up against the boss, and it's not time to kill her yet because he's got other things. But like, you know, he might try and throw a punch, or they might get in a little fist fight, and she wrecks him like every time. She shows, and like even this version of Snake, Naked Snake, he is like the ultimate soldier, but she is a step above him. And so you're right, like she is a badass, and you see her do that like many times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just kind of stands over him and lords over him. Like what? Like what are you going to do? Yeah. Like it's like an adult and a child. Like she literally looks at him like, oh, you try it again. Like you should stop doing that. Like it's, she's formidable.
Yeah. So this is a good kind of storyline that's going throughout the game, is trying to figure out what her deal is, because she defects very early in the game, but you don't learn why until the end. So you are constantly on her trail while doing these other missions, trying to rescue Sokolov, trying to stop this opposition leader named Volgin, who's kind of, you're infiltrating his types of, warehouses and stuff like that. So they got these other storylines going on, but at the center of it, and I think at the center of this game's most important story, it is the boss and Snake, which is cool. I thought this was really good. And a lot of people might be listening to this 20 years later or even longer and being like, yeah, of course, everyone knows the story of Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, there's the meme of Snake saluting at the end. I didn't know the story. Like, I didn't know anything about this. So I thought that this was really entertaining and hits an emotional level that I have never played another Kojima game that gets even close to what this game's ending does. I've done the Metal Gear games I talked about, and then I played Death Stranding. Nothing in Death Stranding, except maybe the end of that, approaches Metal Gear Solid 3 on that emotional level.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Death Stranding does. Whether or not you connect with that story or not is a different story.
Yeah. So I guess we kind of mentioned this earlier. And so we have this, like I said, this emotional story, this very close interpersonal story going on with Snake and the boss. And then we have the other side of Metal Gear Solid stories, which is this wacko collection of characters that like become your bosses, your boss fights throughout the game. Lowercase b boss this time. Your boss fights throughout the game. You have this weird sense of humor. You have this goofy, it was described to me as anime wearing, a Western spy story suit. That makes sense to me. So I have to ask every guest for every Metal Gear Solid episode that comes on the show, I have to ask you, is Kojima in on the joke, or does he think that all of this is very cool and profound?
Oh, it's both.
Okay.
It's totally both. It can be, there's moments when it is almost nothing but joke. Yeah. And you're like, this is the silliest thing I've ever seen. This game is far sillier than I remember. Yeah. I don't know why as a kid, as like a teenager, I didn't realize how ridiculous it gets sometimes. But then when he goes in on divisions between the world and the meaning of war and the meaning of being a soldier and this and that, I do think he thinks that he's being very cool and profound. And it is profound. He's diving into things that are a serious topic. I don't know that a lot of things get said. I don't know how much, like, he repeats himself a lot. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, you said your message, your like cool, your profound message, but then he will harp on it and harp on it and harp on it throughout the game. And it's like, we're not developing it that far. Yeah. So yeah, it's both. It changes on a dime too. It can go from ridiculous to so serious. But then someone could be so super serious with like a giant snake scar on their chest, but they're saying like profound things. It's like they intermingle. We talked about this recently, actually, at PAX. I would compare him to a David Cage, who I think is only thinking that he is cool and profound and serious. And I don't know. I don't know that David Cage is ever in on the joke, whereas I think that Kojima is usually in on it.
I have to hope so, because these things are cool and fun. There is a character in the game that is made of hornets, and they coalesce and form a person, and then they split off into a cloud of hornets at a moment's notice. And then you might have a really well thought out conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, Revolver Ocelot walks in and he's doing the gun twirly thing for a comically long time. So there's a lot of that mix, like you said, and it can turn on a dime at any time. But as far as being profound is concerned, Metal Gear Solid 2 is the most profound of the Metal Gear games that I've played. There's a lot of things in the other games that touch on those subjects, like you said, but then they just keep talking about them at that surface level and don't go as deep as they think they're going, I think. But they are talking about those things. I do think that this game has it does set up an interesting conversation about duty to your superiors with Snake and the boss versus duty to your country with Snake and the United States. And there is some cool stuff, talking about how governments view the soldiers and the people that are doing the dirty work for them, and how they will use them in any way that might benefit them, with little regard for anything else. I do think there are some interesting conversations and things happening here too.
Yeah, there are themes. There are cool themes that are being explored. It's just not getting, like you said, it's not getting that deep. Like, you kind of have to make it deep on your own. Like, you kind of have to think about it and dissect it on your own. But I don't know how much is actually happening in these monologues. But yeah, they're very, very serious.
And there's a lot of monologues. That is how the story is basically told. You either have characters monologuing to Snake or monologuing to another character, or the story is told through codec conversations, just like the other games in the Metal Gear Solid series so far. Luckily, I think the voice acting in those long codec conversations is pretty good and charismatic. Everybody's got a fun voice, at least. Your handler, Major Zero, is a fun person to talk with, voiced by Jim Piddock. Hopefully I am pronouncing them correctly. And we have a couple other people on the radio. I think the one person you're going to talk to the most is named Paramedic, who's voiced by Heather Halley. And for those playing along at home, you're never going to guess what Paramedic's job is. She is a paramedic who is on the radio. She will call and talk to you about local wildlife, medical things, but that's also the person you call to save. And this is another weird, like, one of those things that you can tell this was like, Kojima likes this idea, so it's going in the game. Every time you call to save, Paramedic asks you if you've seen a movie and then summarizes the plot for you. So literally, you'll call to save and she'll be like, Snake, have you seen Dr. Strangelove? And Snake will be like, no, never, because Snake's never seen a movie in his life. And then she summarizes it for him, and Snake has a little quip, and then that's the end. And you spend a lot of time in this codex. So, you're a fan of the series. I assume that you enjoy these conversations to some degree.
To some degree. Some of them I could skip some of them. Some of them, it depends on my mood. I don't know. They're just fun. I liked the movie thing with Paramedic because we know that Kojima is a big movie buff. Yeah. Like, that is one of his passions, is movies. So I just imagined Hideo Kojima being like, oh, this is my chance to, like, put in a bunch of movie references, put in a bunch of things that I could maybe tie into what's happening in my game. And I could just see him being like, ooh, which movies are we going to talk about? And, like, being excited about it. And she talks about, like, Godzilla, and she's like, you haven't seen Godzilla? He's like, Snake, as you said, no, I have not seen Godzilla. What on earth is that? And she's like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're making Godzilla movies 40 years from now. And he's like, really? Isn't that something? And she's like, mm-hmm. And she talks about how the VCR is coming and stuff. And, like, I don't know. It's kind of fun. I liked it. Yeah.
The other kind of fun bit about those conversations is that Snake, kind of like in Metal Gear Solid 1, Snake is horny on main on the radio again. Like father, like son, I suppose. So this time when he's talking with Paramedic and other characters later, but for now, Paramedic, it is, I don't know, it adds a little bit of fun characterization for them. And parts of it get a little bit less fun with other things with Snake later on. But I did think it was funny in those movie conversations. There's one of them where she asks if he's seen a Bond movie, and Snake is like, no, he goes on like this little mini thing about how Bond movies suck and how he's like, real life's not like that. Real spies don't do that. And Agent Zero gets on the radio and makes fun of him for being jealous that he's not as cool as James Bond. So there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Snake is in a James Bond movie as he's saying this.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the tone that this story takes. You've got a weapon of mass destruction that you've got to go figure out. You've got a Bond girl in this game, just like in the movies. You've got, war theming and alternate history. And then, as some of the Bond movies do, there's that kind of human core to it as well. Touched on a little bit, so let's just talk about this. Let's talk about the male gaze, which is back in this game. It took a game off between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3. Metal Gear Solid 2 was not really like that, but it's back. So there's a character in this game named Eva, and she is the Bond girl type character. She is voiced by Suzette Mignette, and the first time you meet her, she is getting dressed, and you get an R1 button prompt that zooms in right on her chest when she's getting dressed. So this is back in this game. Katie, can you guess the only two objects in this game that have jiggle physics?
Is it perhaps boobs and butt?
Yes, those are correct. Yes. Some things that are like, whoa, that's not something I've seen in the rest of the game here. We talked about this in the Metal Gear Solid 1 episode, and then I know there's some even weirder shit later in the series as far as this goes, but some things about Kojima's portrayal of women tend to make me pretty uncomfortable, and I wanted to get your take on this.
It is... It more just makes me cringe more than anything. Like, it doesn't make me upset. It doesn't make me angry. Like, I don't mind it. I don't mind that, like, people are hot in these games. I'm like, why are her boobs always out? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. I'm like, she's riding her motorcycle and she's like, nope, my boobs are out when I rode my motorcycle. It's a zipper. She could easily zip it up. But anyway. And then just like the length of time that those shots play out for is just uncomfortable. It's long enough. And the other thing that kind of bothers me is that I just imagined all of these like teenage boys playing these games and being like, yeah, Snake's cool. He's staring at her boobs. And I'm like, it's not, that's the thing that like this nugget in my head that kind of bothers me is that I just imagine all of these young boys being like, idolizing this in some way and thinking that it's cool. And it's like, no, it's just weird and cringy. But then there are things, the way that the Eva character, where that character goes, there are things in it that make sense just in the way that she behaves sometimes and the things that she says sometimes that I'm like, oh, it makes sense after the fact, but in the moment, it's so uncomfortable and so cringy, and she's kind of embarrassing sometimes, and I'm like, could she be a little cooler right now? And I don't know, it's just R1 for boob shot was just weird. It was weird then, it's weirder now, obviously. It's much weirder.
I think I said it was the Metal Gear Solid 1 episode that I felt like this was a game that was a game that was made for me when I was 15 years old. And kind of got that same feeling with this stuff in particular. The one thing to like note and acknowledge is that you could have a read on this that this is a portrayal of the character Snake and not the creator being like, hey, let's stare at some boobs. But then you get the press R1 for close up. There's like, hey, we should put this in the game. Snake's staring at him. Let's have everyone else stare at him too. So there is that. And like, it's very obviously a thing about Snake, the character, that he likes to look and he likes to be horny on the radio. That's just him as a character.
Which that's funny.
Yeah,
Snake
it's funny.
Being super horny is funny.
Yeah. It's just, there's a pattern with Kojima where I actually think that like some things with Eva and then the boss are some of the best female characters in his games that I've played. There's some stuff with, I haven't played Metal Gear Solid 5, but I'm aware of Quiet's whole deal in that game where I'm just like, ugh, this is a pattern that's been going on for a while. And I don't buy the explanation for why Quiet had to be that way. So
she doesn't have to be anyway. Like you're choosing how she's going to be. Like she has to be this as if she's an
idea someone had
person.
To explain why she's dressed the way she's dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a pattern. And I was like, okay, so in Metal Gear Solid 1, you spent a lot of time staring at Meryl's butt as she's walking away. Metal Gear Solid 2, entire game, took that off. And then 3, we're back. So notable for this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that does tie in a little bit with the Bond-esque type of story they're telling and the types of characters that would make up that kind of story. Again, it doesn't have to be that way. At the end of the day, you can make the decisions for the thing you're making. But it does kind of follow that trend.
It almost feels like it could be a parody of the James Bond movies, which are super objectifying, especially those early movies, those like 70s movies. They're ridiculous. There's like pillow fights and stuff. Like it's so in like bikinis. Anyway, ridiculous stuff. And it's like, oh, I could, if he didn't do this through all of them, if it was only in this game, I would think it's more clever. And I would think it's more of a parody of a Bond movie. But because it is a thread throughout any of the Metal Gear games that I've really played, I buy the parody aspect less than I would otherwise.
It's just harder to give that charitable read to it, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess some kind of wrap up thoughts about the story here, because we've been going for a little bit about the story, but this game has a lot going on to it. I think that this story is by far the most digestible story in the series so far. It is, like you said, the most grounded as a over 100-year-old sniper in a wheelchair containing story could possibly be. So it makes it a lot easier to follow. One thing to note, I think, is that this game has the same pacing issues that all the other ones that I've played have, where if this game's 15 hours long, 80% of the really interesting story happens in the last 2 hours, and everything leading up to that, you're thinking to yourself, all right, where's this going? Is there going to be like a rug pull like in Metal Gear Solid 2? Is there going to be a million plot twists like at the end of the first game? And it's neither of those things in this game. It's just they saved all the important exposition for the very end. So there was a while when I was playing this and like recognizing that emotional core is there and that we have this weirdo group of goofball villains that you're fighting along the way. But there was a long time when I was playing this and be like, what's the point? What is this game doing? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, that's what they're doing. Why did this all have to happen in the last hour? You know? So that's kind of one of the takeaways about the way this plot is given, even though I do think the plot itself is pretty good.
Yeah, I'll save some of it for later when we're in the spoiler section, because I think I'll be able to just talk about it easier. But yeah, there are definitely like motivations that are explained at the very end that I would prefer to be explained a little bit earlier, because I feel like then you can like sit in the story a little bit better, as opposed to the end being like, actually, this is what this was, and this was what this was, and this is what that meant. And you're like, I would have liked to have been in the game knowing that for a bit longer, because I feel like certain scenes could have been even more impactful knowing those things earlier. But yeah, he likes his very, very long exposition cutscenes. That was the thing about Death Stranding. He was like, you know what? I'm going to spread them out throughout the whole game. So I'm going to do 1.5 hour cutscenes like every 8 hours, as opposed to all of them at the end, which I don't know if that's better pacing or worse pacing. But yeah, he loves his long cutscenes, and I don't mind them sometimes. You know, I know what I'm in for. If you don't know what you're in for, I think you'd be like, what is happening? I'm still sitting here. Yeah,
I mean, I'm a huge Yakuza fan, so I'm in it for long cutscenes too. I'm not opposed to it, but it is a lot all at the very end, and then the game is suddenly over, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's what was going on, even though like what happens is still affecting. It's just, I think you're right. Like you don't quite have enough time to sit with it, I guess, unless, the way they want to tell this is that this is how your character experienced this too. This is how Snake experienced what's happening. So all of these things happening at the same time, it happens for him the same way it happens for you, which if you want to look at it that way, then I think that is pretty neat. But
on the other side of that, it's me playing a game, experiencing a story. And, at hour 14, I'm like, what's happening here? And then 1 hour of like extreme exposition, and then it's over. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All told, pretty entertaining story. I think that a lot of the stuff that's going on here is pretty effective. So we'll put a pin in it for now. We will revisit this in the spoiler section, of course. Let's take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back and talk about presentation. So we've mentioned the phrase "like a Bond movie" many times, and this extends into the way the presentation works too. Starting at the very beginning of the game, you have an opening credits sequence just like in a Bond film with the song Snake Eater, the vocal track Snake Eater, which makes lots of appearances throughout the game at sometimes very strange moments, sometimes very effective, emotional moments. I think the song fucking rules, though. I love it.
Yes, it's kind of it rules. It captures exactly what they're trying to capture. It sounds like an old James Bond track, and it's still like silly within itself.
Oh yeah,
like it's
look up the words to that song.
There's something about a tree frog and like it's so silly, but like it sounds like really like momentous and like it swells and it's really big and then like I said, it's littered with these silly little things. It's not taking itself seriously. I love any time that song kicks in throughout the game. I'm thrilled. Like I never don't want to hear that song.
I'm glad you said the word thrill there, because that's the first line of the game. What a thrill. And so this game has that famous scene where you're climbing up the minutes long ladder, like the longest ladder in the history of ladders. The guy in Dark Souls 2 that's building ladders, he's got nothing on this fucking ladder here. And then halfway up there, the vocals just kick in. What a thrill. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? Ridiculous, but really good. And I liked that opening credits a lot. That was really good. But the cinematic presentation doesn't stop there. Like you've got all your classic, action movie style cutscenes. You've got choreographed fights. You've got explosions. You've got chase sequences, all kinds of cool stuff that is maybe taken for granted now, but this is a PS2 game we're talking about here. So really, really good from that perspective too, I think.
Yeah, that is the thing with all of these games, particularly 1, 2, and 3, is that each and every one at the time when it came out blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I played the first one. I was a kid. I should not have been playing that game, but we owned it and I played it. Blew my mind. I was like, this is what games can be? And then Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. I was like, wait, this is what games can be? Like, that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen up to that point. You could hold people up. You could throw people off of, balcony. It was just wild. And then 3, the same thing. I'm like, oh my God. Less so than 2, because 2 was a moment. Like, I remember watching that first cutscene and just being like, I cannot believe what I'm watching. Which is hilarious to think of now. But whereas 3 was like, oh, we're doing this again, but we were just keep pushing forwards. I've never played anything like this again. And to do that repeatedly is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's something that like the remake that's upcoming, like it's probably not going to grab people in that same way because we're just at this point now where every action-packed cinematic video game looks like this now. But it is neat to try and put yourself in that time a little bit. And even as someone myself who doesn't really put myself as, in the shoes in 2004 very well, I don't really have that in me a lot of times. I still thought that this was really fun as an action movie video game. It's fun the way that it's presented and all those fights and all those conversations. You have your cackling anime villains that pop up. The cast of those is really fun in here too. Really fun characters. So the way it's presented is fun. I also thought the music was really good. Best soundtrack in the series so far, like by a lot, in my opinion. Credited to two people, Harry Gregson-Williams and Norihiko Hibino. They did a great job. The big thing that sticks out to me is, other than Snake Eater, that song with the vocals, which gets reused, is the main Metal Gear Solid theme, the one that's persisted through all the games. That one gets reused in a lot of really interesting ways for wildly different situations. And that song can be like a hell yeah, spy action, tactical espionage action type song. And it can also be the saddest fucking song you've ever heard in this game, depending on how they use it. So I think they did great there. And other than music, I suppose the other thing to note is really good sound effects, sometimes funny, but the iconic, exclamation point sound effect when people see you, the way that your weapons sound, the sounds of animals out in the jungle, because you spend a lot of time out in the jungle in this game. That kind of stuff is all really well done. So from a presentation perspective, I guess we'll say, especially for a PS2 game, I think this is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That is the thing with the sound effects in this game, is that they're adding all those wilderness sounds. Mm-hmm. And it does sound like you are in the jungle. Maybe not quite as... I feel like you would be hearing more things if you're in the middle of a dense jungle. Like it's like a symphony, like a lot of things are happening. But I feel like they captured it very well. And I'm like, oh no, I feel it. Like I feel like I am in the jungle. Yeah. I am, amongst the snakes and the birds.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you got bugs buzzing around your ears and all that stuff. So it's good stuff. It really puts you down in there. Let's listen to a bit more of the music. Let's come back and talk about the gameplay in Metal Gear Solid 3. Metal Gear Solid 3 is a stealth game, just like the rest of the games that came before it. And this game puts a special emphasis on stealth as well as, quote, realism and survival mechanics. Like we said earlier, Kojima watched an episode of Man vs. Wild and was like, you know what? We're going to have him eating wild animals in this game. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. Let's talk about the stealth, though. So I think the HD version that you played has the behind-the-character third-person view. Is that right?
It does.
Yeah. So does the subsistence version, but in the options, you can switch to the old top-down style view, which I read the original version of the game had.
Yes. Original version only has the top-down. Mm-hmm. And I do remember, I thought back, and I'm like, how was that to play? And you did have to, go to your first-person view frequently just to scope out where the enemies are, because the way the camera is, you can't see that far. Like, an enemy could spot you, and you never saw the enemy on the screen if you are in the top-down view. So as soon as I fired it up, I was like, oh yeah, I've got this third-person view to try out, because I had never played it with the third-person view. I'd played it 3 times with their old one.
And instantly I was like, oh, this is so much better.
Yeah.
Like, this is how this game should be played, because it just makes more sense. You can see what's before you. Because before, as I said before, you're doing top down, and you're relying very much on that little map with the radar, cones of vision of your soldiers. And you're using that to figure out where you should go. You don't have that here. So you're not just going to run around blind and then they spot you and start shooting you. So like, and it is like it's not like a tight third person. Like, it's not like you're in
not like the Last
Resident
of
Evil
Us.
2
Yeah.
like remake or anything like that. It is it's far enough away. But you do get to like see the environment around you a little bit better, and you can move the camera like however you want, really.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I made use of the third person. I was like, nope, this is it. This was absolutely the way this should be played. Original version, that is a major flaw.
Yeah, 100%. I can't really imagine playing with that top-down view anymore because of exactly like you said. Metal Gear Solid 1 had the radar all the time. Metal Gear Solid 2 had the radar after you unlocked it at the terminal, but you probably did that because you wanted that radar. That helps you with your limited field of vision, I guess. But in this game, you don't have that permanent radar at any point. You get radar by using items, but they all have slightly different uses. None of them are perfect, and they all have batteries that run out, so you can't have them on all the time. So you do need to actually see what Snake sees. And so that third-person view is really good. And the stealth is, I think, still most heavily emphasized. The new thing they put in this game is a camouflage system where Snake will find different outfits. You'll find them around. You'll get them as rewards for beating bosses sometimes. Most of them just like raise your camouflage percentage or like your, percent hidden that you are. Some of them will turn everybody non-hostile to you, like in Hitman or something like that, which is cool if you find the right one for the place that you're going. I think the camouflage system is a nice thing in theory. In reality, it just meant you spend a lot of time in the menu switching costumes. Every time you're like, oh, I walked inside, better get my indoor camo on. But it's a nice idea that you need to think about that kind of thing the way that Snake would if he's trying to infiltrate someplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I honestly don't dislike it. The thing that I wish was just that they just condensed it down a little bit. Like, don't give me 6 different forest ones. Like,
there's like 100 outfits. There's a lot.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, I'm up against this tree. Now I have to have my tree bark on. But if I take 3 steps to the right, I need my woodland one on. And it's like, no. Let's just bring it in a little bit and have it, just less like minute changes within the same environment. I do like that they tell you the number of like how good this is, because you just scroll through and you're like, this one has the highest number, and I click it. And I'm like, don't make me like try things out when I have these like 20 different camouflage things and face paints also. So it's like, I don't know, part of it was executed well, part of it was executed poorly. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's quick to switch in and out of them. So, but it's definitely not perfect.
Yeah, it's just a lot of going into the menu, switching out your face paint. Some of the face paints are really goofy. Like there's one where Snake just has a big skull painted on his face and the rest of it's black. It's goofy shit. Some of it is more realistic, I guess we'll say. So that's kind of fun. Other stuff that you're doing in stealth, you have a lot of like minute control over what Snake is doing. You can run, you can walk, they call it stalking in the game, which is like creeping up behind somebody. You can crouch, you can crawl, you can climb on stuff, you can hang from ledges, all that stuff. Probably my biggest annoyance with the controls is just all these different modes of movement, because it's not really smooth to switch between them. What got me hundreds of times is if you're crouching and you press the move button, you'll start crawling instead of like doing a crouch walk or even standing up. That got me almost every time, like, and especially during bosses, if you're trying to hide or something like that, but then you're like, oh shit, they saw me, I got to run away. Nope, you're crawling. And got me a lot of times. This is the biggest part for me with the controls that I was fighting against even in the final boss fight. I was still making this mistake.
I had less of an issue with it. I get it though. Not having a crouch walk is like, it's one or the other. Whereas today we're used to stealth games having some kind of crouch walk.
Mm-hmm.
That and like having stalking be different from doing your like slight push on the stick. Like I'm like, do we need these two things to be different? I don't think we do. If you just made this, give me a slight walk on the stick and then I'm silent, that would do it. You don't need the buttons.
I kind of appreciate it being on the D-pad because
you're not going to screw it up if you're doing that, at least, right? You're not going to accidentally push it too far.
You're not going to push it too hard and like, you know, you're sneaking up behind somebody and then suddenly you run full speed into their back. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that happening on there. One thing I guess to mention that's new in this game is they call it close quarters combat, and it's like a thing in the game story too. Like it's kind of cheesy, but this means that if you sneak up behind an enemy, you have context sensitive things that you do depending on like your position with the enemy, depending on what you do once you grab them. There's a bunch of stuff you can do. So you'll grab the enemy. If you're holding a rifle, you'll hit them with the butt of your gun. If you're holding a weapon that is labeled close quarters weapon, you can grab them and pull them in. You can slam them to the ground. You can cut their throat. You can choke them out. You can hold them out as a human shield. There's a whole bunch of shit. I didn't do most of this because I had trouble just sneaking up on enemies and grabbing them. Like that was, if I got that, I was like, okay, cool. They're getting choked out. I'm not going to try any of this fancy shit. I was having too hard of a time. But it is pretty complex. And I think that people who are really good at it or people who want to take the time to practice can actually pull off some cool stuff with this, you know, like holding someone out as a human shield and then tossing them away and running up and, you know, jump kicking another enemy and knocking them down and stuff like that. If you're really good, which I'm not.
Yeah, they give you the ability to be really specific about what you're doing, which I like. It did occur to me as I was starting the game, because I needed a reminder. I was like, oh yeah, CQC, how does that work? And I had to like pull up the game menu, the manual, and go like look through it, which is a pain. Getting through that manual in the game, it's just set up weird. But anyway, but I was like, no, I need to review CQC. But I remember like it was much easier in 2004 because everything was physical games. So you had the game manual. So I literally just would have the game manual open, especially like in the first, couple hours while you're playing the game. And you would go, how do I do that again? And you look down and you're like, oh yeah, that's how. Okay. It's just a lot easier to reference something back then. Whereas now it's like, that's not just, you could pull it up in your phone, I guess, but.
And I did.
Yeah.
The Steam Deck with the game manual open on my phone many times.
This is how I play Metal Gear 3, is I will typically just like trank gun people who are far enough away that everyone else won't notice, and then I'll walk up and then I'll kick them until they wake up. And they wake up, I hold them up, I make them give me all their items. I might interrogate them and see if they have anything cool, interesting little Easter eggs to tell me about. And then I will kill them and I will hide their body. And then I'll see, okay, who's next? Who's far enough away from the pack and I can take them out, and I will headshot trank gun them, go over there, and repeat. And it's not the most interesting way, I think, to play the game, but I really enjoy it. It's something really satisfying about just like clearing the area, being like, okay, how am I going to clear this thing out? And taking them all out. But yeah, actually sneaking up on people as they're walking, usually it was like a 50-50 success rate.
Yeah. It's tough. So that leads perfectly into the $1 million question. When you get caught in this game, do you reload or do you try to get yourself out of it?
Oh, I get myself out of it.
Okay.
I'm not reloading. No.
Okay,
I take out whatever good gun I have. I shoot whoever's coming at me, like the immediate threats. And then I just bolt and try and find some place to kind of hide and camp out for a little bit. Or I'll just try and take everybody out. But yeah, no, I am always trying to make it work.
Okay. A key thing in this game that allows you to do what you just talked about is that enemies don't infinitely respawn in this game. You can kill everybody in a level, where in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, they just endlessly come in. So I did more often just, I got caught. I just, load state, try again. I did get into that sometimes in this game if I just wasn't feeling like fighting, because shooting a bunch of enemies in this game is hard. Snake doesn't have a ton of health. It's easy to get overwhelmed if there's a bunch of people. Some of the guns I thought were a little bit cumbersome to control. There's a very weird, some guns you have to hold down L1 to look down the sights and then shoot, or you can't see where you're shooting. Some guns you have to do that and then press another button to look down a scope, and it's a whole thing. Some of them you don't. So when I found a shotgun, that was I got caught. I'm blasting with the shotgun now. So that's possible in this game. If you're trying to hide, I think it's funny and kind of cool that you're I can go hide under a bed or hide in a locker or something like that. But it has the timer that ticks down. And so you'll be watching that and it'll be and there's two timers. There's the everyone's fighting timer, and then there's the everyone's searching for you timer. They're both 99 seconds.
Yeah. And
it's a really bad feeling when they don't see you, but the timer resets to 99. And you're wait, what happened? Why they don't know where I am, because otherwise they'd be shooting me. So you do that mental math and you're okay, that's 3 more minutes of me sitting in here waiting out these timers. And that's not great. So if I didn't feel like dealing with that or trying to kill everybody in the level, I would just hit that load state and be you know what? This will be quicker. Let's just try again. So it's
that's totally
a constant
fair
thing with this series, I think.
That thing with the timer resetting, that is one of the most frustrating things, because sometimes it just resets because they found another body. Mm-hmm. And you're yeah, but you already know I'm here.
You already know everyone's resetting. Dead. Yeah.
You're already looking for me. So why is finding a new body make you go oh, we need to look harder? It's no, you already know. I've been killing people this whole game. Yeah. So yeah. And then it's I've already killed 6 people. So now they're finding one body. Then they find another body. Then they find another body. And it's oh my God, please make it end. Which is, I just try not to do that.
That's when you just bust out of the locker and you're all right, shotgun time. Let's do this.
It's time.
Yeah.
Another thing with, how you said there aren't infinite soldiers, because they're basically we're sending reinforcements. And then those are the reinforcements. There's a lot of them, but those are the reinforcements. The cool gameplay thing that they added was the radio. So it's no, that person has to radio for help.
Yeah.
Or else it's contained to who was already existing in that area. So either you were seen by some other guy and then he yells to the radio guy to radio for help, or it was the radio guy already. But if you took out the radio guy, they're oh crap, radio guy's down. Nobody's coming, guys. And they'll kind of state that. And you're yeah, that's right. You could also shoot out the radio. Without even taking out the soldier. You could just if you can snipe that radio out, and then he can try, and he'll be oh, it's broken, I didn't even know. That's just a cool little thing where they used the time and the place to the benefit of the gameplay. The same thing with the sonar and the different kinds of radars that you have. It's no, they're all limited, so you got to pick. Yeah. It made it a bit more specific, as opposed to one soldier saw you. Now the whole base knows you're here instantly, as with 1 and 2.
Those little details are unquestionably cool, I think. And it's something that whenever I do an episode about a game by, I guess, any of these auteur type people, but especially with Kojima, because I've done a bunch of them now, there's always things to be I don't get why he does it this way. And then you get to this stuff where you're this is the secret sauce. These cool little details, shooting out the radio. And remember, this is on the PS2. This isn't, a brand new game coming out. Shooting out the radio, the fact that if there's a stamina and hunger system, and if Snake gets too hungry, his stomach will growl, and the guards can hear that, and that might give away your position. There's a bunch of boss fights with these details too. There's a boss fight against a sniper in this game. And the amount of little things that I read about where people are like, yeah, this is my strategy. If you look out in the distance, you can see the sun reflect off of the scope of the sniper. I'm like, what? That's cool. I did it this other way with these other hidden details that I figured out. And I felt like a very smart boy because I figured those out. There are so many of these small little details in here. And there's not a lot of them that are just weird little cosmetic things. Like you can take advantage of all of these things in gameplay. And that's what I think makes him as a creator, but specifically Metal Gear Solid 3, like it feels like a bigger step up because there's so many more of these details.
Yeah, he never rests on his laurels. Like he is always trying to advance things, which I appreciate a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other things that were added in this game, I mentioned the stamina system, but to dive into that a little bit more, it kind of functions as stamina and hunger. So you have a health bar and then you have a stamina bar, and the stamina will slowly drain as you play, like pretty slowly. But if you get hit, it will drain faster. And the lower your stamina, the more slowly your health refills. And if your stamina runs out, then your health will start to drain. So the way you get around this is Snake needs to eat. And you'll find food in storehouses around military bases and stuff like that. And you can hunt. And you can hunt all manner of wildlife. Gators, you can eat plants too, but birds, wild like deer, snakes. In fact, the first time you eat a snake in this game, there is an insanely detailed and like comically long cutscene that plays of Snake eating a snake. It's like Red Dead Redemption 2 levels of like, here, watch this 25-second cutscene of him eating a snake. You're like, whoa, okay. But I don't know. How'd you feel about this food and stamina system?
I really like it. I usually try and keep it really topped up. The other thing is that when you're aiming, if you're down 2 bars, you are waving. Like if you're a first person down the barrel aiming, it is wavy as can be. And you're like, oh no, I'm low. It's no good.
Yeah.
It also just gives me something to look out for. Like I'm like, oh, there's a snake over there. There's a melon in the tree over there. Like it just gives you something else to pay attention to. And it's slow enough that it's not aggravating. Because if it's constant, although it can be, because the more equipment that you are carrying, because you have your equipment in your backpack, and then you have whatever you want to have from your backpack in your quick access menu, you pick. If your if your encumbrance is too high, it drains way faster, depending on how much you're carrying. And so then you're like, oh crap, what can I do without here? Do I really need the RPG right now? I probably don't.
Yeah.
I could probably set it aside. Yeah, and it also gave me something as kind of that completionist itch to be like, oh, I want to get all the snakes. I want to get all the things, because there are trophies for that on the PS5, on the remastered HD collection. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to get all the things. So that also contributed to my long playtime, is that I'm like, I want to get all the spiders. I'm like, oh, there's a spider. I don't think I got that spider yet. I'm like,
hell yeah. Awesome.
And then also the food items that you can use, because you can capture 3 animals without killing
live
them.
Animals. Yeah.
Which is helpful that they don't spoil, for one.
Yep.
Because if you leave them in your inventory too long, like dead animals, they will spoil, and then they are less effective. So you can keep 3 live ones so they won't spoil. But also you can then chuck them at the enemy. So you can throw a tarantula at an enemy and then it bites him and now he's poisoned. It's that's cool.
Yep.
It gives you just extra things to play with. Another thing, I don't think you have it listed here in the gameplay aspects. Cool thing that Kojima added is the storehouses.
Yeah.
So there are weapon storehouses and there are food, provision storehouses. And every now and then in the game, you will be able to pick up TNT.
Yeah.
And if you blow up the storehouses, then that will have an effect on the soldiers in that area, which is very much makes me think of Metal Gear 5, where the equipment that they're carrying will change depending on how you're playing the game. It does that basically, where it's oh, I destroyed the weapon storehouse.
the enemies only can like shoot so many bullets before they have to reload. If you destroy their provision storehouse, all the soldiers are like, I'm so hungry. So if you throw out something spoiled or something like a mushroom, some of the mushrooms will either poison you or put you to sleep. You throw out a mushroom that puts you to sleep, and they're like, run at it and like eat it like greedily right away, and then just pass out cold. That's cool.
Yeah,
there are so many
cool
things that you can do in this game, and it lets you like play around with it in a way that 1 and 2 don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things I knew about, and some of the things you mentioned I didn't even know about before. Like, I knew that you could toss a live snake at enemies. I never tried it. I'm just generally bad at playing this game, so I was like, it would be better to just use the tranq gun like I have been doing, and that'll do the job. Another thing about the like this stamina and hunger system too is that bosses have stamina bars too, and you can non-lethally take down every boss. So I think you can get through this whole game completely non-lethally, whether you're tranq gunning people or just punching them and knocking them out. If you deplete a boss's stamina bar before their health bar, they are non-lethally dealt with. You get unique items for doing this, new camouflage, stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. I never did this because I was bad at the game, but it is something you can do. And this also kind of plays in with another kind of survival system in here, which is the injury system that I think is more goofy than actually like gameplay effective, but there is a medical screen and various things that can happen that injure Snake. Snake can break bones. If you get shot with a gun, sometimes you'll get a bullet hole injury. If you get bit by a snake, I think you get an injury from that. There's a lot of different injuries you can get, and injuries affect your stamina, and you have to go in the screen and heal them, basically. You've got a bunch of medical supplies that you pick up, and this is why I think it's goofy, is because you'll never run out of medical supplies. You always have so many of them. So it's more of just like I got shot in combat. Snake has a gunshot wound. Your health bar is permanently like decreased until you deal with that. So let me go on the screen, and the process to heal a gunshot wound is to disinfect it, suture it, bandage it, and maybe dig out the bullet for a gunshot wound, which is like canonically funny to me. You're in a gunfight, Snake gets shot in the head, he digs the bullet out with his knife and then bandages it up and like gives himself fucking like staples or something to put it together, and then just continues with the fight. It's kind of funny to me. I think this is goofy, but there's a part later in the game where it's used for a story purpose that I thought was kind of neat. But until then, it was literally just like, hey, hold on, let me treat my burns real quick, then we can get back to this fight.
Yeah, I think this is the feature that to me seemed cool at the time. When you first hear about it, you're like, oh, that's cool. And then, but in practice, it's completely ineffective because like you said, you can do it at any moment. Like, so it just happened. I'm still fighting the people. I just go, oh, pause. And it's very tasky. Which, and it doesn't, there's no like finesse to it. You're just like, oh, I know I need these items. You're like, item, there. It's fixed. I'm out. Like I said, it's completely ineffective. It doesn't serve the purpose that I think it tends to serve. If you needed to like get out of a combat state or something before you can fix it, that would be slightly better. I think it'd be more annoying, but it would make more sense. And like, it would be more useful. Right now it has no use. It's literally just to have a thing for you to go do. Yeah. And it's tedious.
Yeah. Again, a lot of time in the menu. That's basically what it boils down to. I think you're right. If it was like, oh, Snake broke his leg, once combat is over, you can deal with this. But until then, you're going to be like really slow to move or something like that. Then that I think would help a lot. I wonder if like the remake is going to do something about this kind of thing.
They have to. Like they have to, right? Because it's just stupid. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Other than, again, just making me laugh and be like, oh, hold on, I've got a bullet in my forehead. Let me dig it out. Let me disinfect and take care of this. And then we can get back to our fight.
And also, if you splint and bandage a broken leg, it's not broken anymore. You're good now. Like
immediately.
I don't understand.
Yeah. So it's goofy, but I guess the worst part about it is that you just, you got your menu tax. You got to go spend 30 seconds in the menu dealing with that. If that's the worst that it is, then the times it made me laugh were worth it, I will say.
That's fair.
So,
you know what? There's one more thing in the gameplay I just want to touch on. We talked about the codec earlier. They really developed that further where it has more use, where if you hold up certain enemies and like threaten them, sometimes they'll cough up information that is useful to you. Like they'll give you a frequency that's the call off alert frequency. And then like they find you, you hide, and they're all looking for you, and you can just like use that frequency. It's a one-time shot and then it's done. But you can use it, call off the alert, and then they're all done, and then they all like, oh, I guess it's over, and they all go on with their day. Also, you can use the radio to call in artillery support, so it'll just like strafe the area. And so you're like tucked in a corner, and you're like, call the artillery, and they'll bomb their own soldiers. There's a healing radio station that you can go to that plays like wannabe Beach Boys songs that you can just like let play, and I think they heal you. I don't actually know if the healing radio actually heals you or if it's just like a nice pleasant moment, because I never left it long enough to actually heal me. But yeah, I don't know, there's just so many things to find, and it's like it's like little secrets that you can find that you're like, oh my god, this game goes deeper than I thought it did.
Since I never like held up anybody for information, I didn't even know about any of the things you just mentioned. So that's crazy. And I would like to think that like listening to the wannabe Beach Boys will heal your broken leg if you let it play for a minute or something like that.
Throw a stick, a bandage, and the Beach Boys. You're good.
Yeah. So I think it's time, before the spoiler section, to get into our closing thoughts. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping, stuff like that. So, Katie, if you have any wrap-up thoughts about Metal Gear Solid 3, now is the time. And then also, who would you recommend play this game?
Oh, wrap-up thoughts. It's still a good game. I genuinely think it's still good enough that someone coming to it fresh can find things in it that are interesting, and it's fun to play. I still think it's fun to play. I don't know how biased my opinion is, right? Because your nostalgia, obviously, how much I enjoy replaying this game is a completely different experience than if I was playing it fresh in this year. But I think it holds up. I still think it's good. I'm excited for a remake, but I think that the original still holds up, and I really, really like it. Who should play this game? I don't know. If you like anything that Kojima has ever done, I think you'll like it. If you like anything that involves, if you hate stealth, if you're like, I don't want to be strategic about how I move my way through an area, and you just want to shoot things, and you are an action-only kind of player, maybe not. Maybe you should give it a shot, but it might not be for you. But like, I don't know. I think anyone who likes strategic action games can find something to like in this.
Yeah, I can see that. And like, we talked earlier about how you can fight your way through rooms, you can kill everybody, stuff like that. But like, there are bosses that require stealth too. So you're not going to totally go this whole game like just going loud, Yeah. So I think I'd agree with that. Yeah, I do think this game holds up pretty damn well. Like the controls are weird, but like every PS2 game has weird controls. It was just an era before the whole industry decided to use the same 3 control schemes. So you're going to play a bunch of games with weirdo controls. And like, I got through the game, I beat it. I struggled at times with it, but I did beat the game. The final boss was very difficult, but I did do it. So there is that. And I think I would echo, especially like what you said, anyone who has enjoyed what Kojima has done before or after, say you only played Death Stranding. Like, there are things about Death Stranding that make that game really neat that are in this game too. All of those attention to detail. Like, when people talk about Kojima, and myself included, we often talk about those story things, those, sometimes profound, sometimes fake profound messages, all the goofy shit, all the long cutscenes and monologues and stuff like that. But I don't think Kojima gets enough credit for innovating in gameplay, like not nearly enough. And this game does have a bunch of really cool gameplay stuff, even stuff that I didn't know about because I didn't get deep enough into it to, call in an artillery strike on the enemies or something like that. So that stuff is really cool. So I definitely echo that. If anyone thinks this sounds cool, then definitely play this. And if you're like me and you only played the first Metal Gear Solid, maybe the second game, continue with the series, because there's a lot of games that you hear so much about, you hear all this praise, and you hear people say, like, actually, this is the best one in the series. It's one of the greatest games of all time. And after playing it, I'm like, yeah, I get why so many people hold this game in such high regard. Like, all the cool stuff it's doing, really easy to see. So, and then again, back to what we talked about an hour ago, the story is really easy to follow along with and much easier to make a connection with than the previous games in the series. And I don't know about the later ones yet, but I do think this game has a reputation of having the best story in the series. And I think that that's probably earned, although I haven't played the later ones. So we'll see. But I did enjoy this game quite a bit. It's pretty easy to recommend to a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel like it's a game that you just, all of Kojima's games, I feel like there is so much effort put in to making it good front to back. Like, there are interesting camera angles even in the cutscenes, and just like the voice acting is good, and like the attention to detail is so good consistently. And I think that's why I go back to him all the time.
Yep. So, pretty easy recommendations for both of us for a select group of people, but that's kind of the way recommendations should go. So before we get into spoilers, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. We always start with the guest. So Katie, tell people about the podcasts that you're a part of and what they can expect.
So I am one of the co-hosts of the Left Behind Game Club. It is a book club style video game podcast similar to this one. Little bit shorter episodes typically. And we'll usually deep dive a little bit less into the story, but yeah, very similar to this podcast. Also like good vibes. We try and be positive. We're not going to just blast something for the sake of blasting it. Like we want to like video games. We like liking things. Sometimes we don't, but we want to, we give them a fair shake.
Yep.
So there's that. And then Cutscenes, a video game movie podcast, has been on hiatus for a bit, but there are 4 seasons there where we are using the book club style podcast, but this time for video game related medias. So like TVs or TV shows or movies. Most of them are bad. Some of them are fine. Some of them are good, and they're getting better, actually. And we did a whole season on the first season of the Last of Us HBO show, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
And that is with Jacob McCourt and Travis Colnett. Jacob McCourt, who has been on another Metal Gear Tales from the Backlog show.
That's right. Yeah, and then Left Behind Game Club, often there's a bit of rotating cast from time to time on that show, but always Jacob, as far as I know, and then often features Flora, who's also been a guest on this show a couple of times when we talked about The Last of Us Part 2 and Like a Dragon Gaiden. So it's a good group of people. I've been on Left Behind Game Club a few times. We did a 2-part episode about Final Fantasy 16, and then we also did a PAX East wrap-up episode together over there. So you're right. Like, I think that anyone listening to Tales from the Backlog, and especially if you come back to Tales from the Backlog often, you should check out Left Behind Game Club. You'll definitely find a similar type of vibe over there. Very smart people over there. So it's a good time. And for all of your video game adaptation needs, maybe if you want to catch up on The Last of Us before season 2 comes out, whenever the fuck that happens, you go check out cutscenes as well. And I will put links to those things down in the show notes so people can easily find them. And while I'm talking about myself for the next minute or so, you can go click around, subscribe, look for some episodes to download. You will not be disappointed. So for this show, best ways to support, as always, are to leave ratings and reviews. That helps people find this episode. When they search for a Metal Gear Solid 3 podcast, they might find this episode, and that's what we want. You can join the Discord server. We have a lot of people chatting, maybe some good Metal Gear Solid conversations happening during the week this comes out. We would love to have you in there. It's a great community of people. You can listen to my other podcast. We do top 3 lists and draft topics. It's called A Top 3 Podcast. And last but not least, if you would like to support this show monetarily, you can do that at patreon.com/realdavejackson, where you can vote on games that I play for the show and get bonus episodes and all kinds of cool treats. So, with all that being said, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Metal Gear Solid 3. Okay, we're back, and it's full spoiler time for Metal Gear Solid 3, and we're not going to go in like a chronological walk through the story for this one, but we are going to start the spoiler section here by talking about some of our favorite bosses, some of our fun moments, as these games are full of stuff like that. And then after that, we will get into like the big revelation about what's going on in the story in this game. But for a lot of Metal Gear Solid 3, you're kind of following the boss's footsteps, making your way through all of these different people in what they call the Cobra unit, and those are your main bosses throughout the game. So I thought we could just start by talking about our favorite ones, and I'll start with how this game is the origin story for Revolver Ocelot, who is one of my favorite boss characters from the first game. And you see him here, and you learn that he took 2 revolvers because Snake schooled him early in the game and was like, yeah, that gun doesn't suit you. Revolver might be better, or something like that. And he picks up some revolvers. He does his gun twirling tricks, again, comically long sometimes.
Oh my God.
I love him in this game. He's very funny.
So Ocelot is my favorite character.
Okay.
Mostly just because you get that this overconfident brashness of youth.
Yeah.
Because I assume late 20s, maybe early 30s at most, even though he's very accomplished already. But he's also, it feels like he's insecure. It feels like he wants Snake to think he's cool.
Yeah.
So bad. So he's like, look at what I can do. I'm doing the thing. I'm flipping my revolvers around. I'm behind my back now. And now I'm up here. And now I'm juggling them. And he's like, he's showing off all the time in a way that feels not confident, even though he's portraying confidence all the time. And then by the end, he's basically trying to be his buddy. He wants to be friends with Snake
Yeah,
so
he helps
bad.
him out sometimes. Yeah.
Yes. And it's, I don't know, that it's this mixture with that character that I just find him fascinating throughout this whole game.
Yeah, he has, his motives are really unclear for a lot of the game until the very end when it turns out he's like double crossing multiple countries at the same time or something like that. But he's fun. There's a scene in here where he's doing a version of Russian roulette with Sokolov, where instead of like one bullet in the 6-shooter, he's juggling 3 guns at the same time and shooting them. And there's one bullet in one of the guns and he's just like toying with him, but he's juggling and doing this shit. It's really, really fun. There's a boss fight against him where it's like everyone's like running between cover and stuff, but there's like beehives you can shoot down to go bother him. And at one point in the boss fight, I wrote this down because I thought it was funny because of these weird survival systems in this game. He shot me a bunch, so I got injured and my stamina was low. So I killed and ate a rabbit in the middle of the boss fight, which, like, if you imagine yourself as playing out the events of this, it's very funny for Snake to like be like, low on stamina, and dive behind a rock. There's a rabbit over there. Perfect.
Yeah.
So
just hold, please.
I don't know.
While
I love
eat this
anytime
rabbit.
Ocelot gets involved in this game.
Yeah, no, Ocelot's fun. He's just a fun character. And every cutscene is like, I don't know what he's going to do at any moment.
Yep.
As far as a boss fight, not my favorite. It's pretty pretty standard. You're on one platform, he's on the next platform. You're separated. You're shooting at each other. There's cover.
Yeah.
There's not a lot there. My favorite boss battle, I think of every Metal Gear game that I've played is the fight against the end.
Okay.
Which is the sniper fight. Mm-hmm. The first 2 sniper fights in Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2 are fine. They're fine.
I disagree. The ones in Metal Gear 1 are terrible.
You're right. They're bad.
So much.
You're totally right. They're fine as it's an old game and I get through them and they're still kind of painful to get through. Mm-hmm. So yeah, actually they're bad. This one, I'm like, oh no, this is like we've unlocked the Metal Gear sniper fight.
Yeah. Where
you are in a forest area. You do not know where he is. You have to not be seen. You have to crawl around. And he will also like not see you if you do it well. Whereas I feel like the first 2 games, eventually they shoot you. Like it almost felt like you were on a timer and like eventually they're going to shoot me. Oh, I didn't do it fast enough. This one, it's like, no, you could just stay hidden and he will not see you. Like you could legit do like a sniper standoff and just wait it out.
Yep.
Which I think is what I did when I was younger, is that the heat goggles, the heat sensing binoculars or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're kind of overpowered in a lot of circumstances in this game.
Yeah.
But you can use that and kind of scan around, or you can see his footsteps and be like, oh, he went in this direction. And you can like actually sneak up on him. Whereas 1 and 2, you are set up like I'm in this area, they're in that area.
Yeah.
We're kind of facing each other the whole time. This is like, no, this is 3-dimensional sniper fight. You can do whatever you want to do. And it's just fun. It's like, it's just the whole strategy of the game. Like this is Metal Gear, but a boss fight in Metal Gear. And it's just, it's excellent. I love playing it every time.
Yeah, I think this is the best fight in the game. And it's because it has the most options for what to do. Like we talked about before, you can find him by seeing the light reflect off of his sniper scope. You can use the heat vision goggles to find where he is. You can follow his footsteps. I did a combination of those things to get a few shots in on him. And then what I thought was cool is as his stamina depletes, he gets more careless and less observant throughout the fight. So like the last couple times I snuck up on him, I didn't sneak up on him. I just ran up and he was just struggling because in the story, he's over 100 years old. He's like the oldest man. And Eva says that his body is photosynthetic, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. And he's comatose. Yeah. They're wheeling him around in a wheelchair and they're like, no, it's okay. He's going to wake up when it's time. Like, that's just so funny.
And you can fight him the first time you see him, like there's a short period of time where he's out on the dock and you see his boss health bar come up. And if you decide to fight him, you can do it then. But I didn't. I got too busy trying to stealth around and then he was gone. So I also read a couple of cool things about this fight. If you are in the fight and you save and quit and then come back, you'll wake up in jail because he captured you while you were away from the game, which I think is funny.
This one I didn't know. I had no idea that would happen.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I didn't do it, but it apparently can happen. Did you know about what happens if you set your system clock in the future?
He gets too old.
Yes, he dies of old age, which is just so weird. Like, this is the like more gimmicky side of Kojima, but I think this is pretty funny that if someone had the original idea, like, hey, this guy's 100 years old. What if I set my system clock a year in the future? Did Kojima think of this? And the answer is yes, he did think of it.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
I think it's also one of the harder ones, harder boss fights. So I feel like he's also just like giving you options to get
true.
out of it, which he does also earlier. If you blow up there's a helicopter parked in one area and you can like TNT that helicopter. And then later when you're going up the mountains, the side of the mountain, there are no helicopters.
Oh, sick.
Like looking for you if you blow up that one helicopter earlier. Like stuff like that's really cool. But yes, that is. So there are things that he gives you options to not fight the end if you don't want to, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Other Cobra unit bosses they're a little bit less remarkable, I think, than the end. I say unremarkable. One of them is named the Pain. He is made of hornets, and all of his weapons are hornet-related things. He will make a gun that shoots what he calls bullet hornets, and they're special injuries. You have to go in the injury menu and get the bullet hornets out of you, because canonically, the bees are eating you from the inside. That's what the menu says, which is wild. It's a very video gamey boss fight, but made of hornets. So you've got that guy. You've got the Fear, who is invisible, stalking you through the jungle. This was one of my least favorite fights, but the Fear as a character is goofy as shit. Just like this chaotic madman with the Gene Simmons long tongue thing going on. Very weird. I laughed when he was on screen. Did not like the fight, but one fun thing about that fight is during the fight, he'll get hungry and he will go hunt food and eat it. And you can use this opportunity to fight him when he's busy hunting. Sometimes he'll kill something or eat something and it's poisonous, and you'll see his health bar start draining and he'll complain that he has a stomach ache and stuff like that. Really weird, but kind of fun fight. Like from that perspective, the things that were thought of.
Yeah, the Fear, I did not remember how goofy the Fear is.
Yeah.
Like he comes down as if he's like a spider, and he like climbs up the tree in a weird way, and it's like, I did not remember you being this crazy. He is Vamp from the last game dialed up to like 27. Like he's ridiculous.
And one more detail about the Fear is he's constantly yelling the word fear as he's in the boss fight, in cutscenes. He's just yelling fear like he's a Pokemon, and it's great.
That's why he's so crazy. I love the Fear so much. I don't mind the boss fight as much because I just find cover from his shots.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he runs down to the floor, I'll take some kind of like automatic weapon and just run and like shoulder shoot at him. And I'd get him like every time. And then I would just wash and repeat. He's not terrible. But yeah, he is so crazy. I think up to date, he is like the most manic and like insane boss, I think.
Yeah. The other members of Cobra Unit, other than the boss, the other ones are called the Fury, who is a pyromaniac. He's got a flamethrower and a jetpack. And this fight was unremarkable, but kind of fun. Reminded me of the Vulcan Raven fight from the first game.
It's
just
a better
like
version. Yeah.
trying to stay out of his way, trying to sneak up on him when he's, turning around these corridors and stuff. He explodes into a giant flaming spirit face that chases you out of the room for some reason. I don't know why, but Kojima, we can just chalk those things up to Kojima. You got the Fury, and then the last member of Cobra Unit is called, what was it called? The Sorrow. Yeah. Which is not really a boss fight. It's just you have to make it to the end of this river that you're wading through, and the ghosts of all the people you killed in the game are coming at you, and you kind of just have to like Frogger your way through and not get hit. I wonder what happens if you play non-lethally. Do you know, Katie?
I think there's just the dead fish in the river floating. Like, I don't think there's much of anything. You still have to walk down the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing that it's cool in concept that you see everything that like every person that you killed walking down, and also like in the method that you killed them. So I had tons and tons, because I killed a lot of people, tons of soldiers with like blood spurting out of their neck, because after I interrogated people, I would just like throat slit knife them. So there was just tons and tons of those going like, my neck. And I'm like, yeah, I did do that to a lot of you guys. Yeah, I did.
I remember that too, because this is how I figured out that it was like actually the people that I killed, is because there's a bunch of soldiers, and then like a boss, and then more soldiers, and then it was like, oh, a group of scientists. And I was like, I did kill a group of scientists that one time, because they kept sounding the alarm, and I was like, you know what, I got to get out of here. So I did kill a room full of scientists one time, and they're back here. This fight has a weird gimmick that I had to look up how to like do this, because you get to the end of the river, you interact with a dead body down there, and Snake dies instantly. And I was like, okay, I did something wrong. So I loaded it up, did the boss fight again, got to the end, died. And I was like, I must have still done something wrong. What am I doing? So I did it like, I think I did the full thing 3 times before I was like, okay, there's nothing else I could have done. What am I supposed to do here? And the trick is you have an item called the Revival Pill. Yeah, I think it's called the Revival Pill.
Yes, it is.
It's lost in my notes at this point. That will bring Snake back to life. And I didn't know that when you're on the You Died screen, you could still pull up the menu and use the item. Kind of a cool trick, but very poorly tutorialized, because I never used the fake death pill earlier. Did you ever use that thing?
I used it once to get the trophy.
Just the trophy, okay.
Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, that's, like I said, it's another example of something that is cool in concept, but actually doing it is extremely tedious and pretty dull. Because like nothing new is really happening this whole time you're walking up this river, and it takes minutes, like many minutes.
Many minutes for you.
Yes, I killed a lot of people. But yeah, no, I think it was like 8 minutes. Like, it was just stupid. And you're just kind of like going from side to side to dodge people, and you're not doing anything. It's in execution, it doesn't work. But I did the same thing. I couldn't remember. I was like, what did I do? So I did it again. And I was like, oh my God, this is so long. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh crap, what did I do? And I did the same thing. I had to do it 3 times. And the third time I was like, why can I not remember how to do this? And I should have known. Like, it's right there. I don't know. But yeah, no, I did the same thing. I had to Google it.
I don't know. Maybe the way that they think you're going to remember it is because you can't take that revival pill out of your inventory. Like, it's permanent. Yeah. You can't remove it. So you're like, oh, like I must need it sometime. Yeah. Yeah, it is hidden in your tooth. So if you wanted to put it in your backpack, you'd have to rip it out and throw it back there or something. But anyway, that was kind of weird. There's one more boss fight against the Shagahad and Volgan. There's 2 boss fights against Volgan, I think. The first one is super fucking easy one. It's just like a one-on-one fight. And then he comes back later with the Shagahad, which is, if you're following along at home, don't know, the Shagahad is like a prototype Metal Gear. Part of the thing that you learn is like who designed the first Metal Gear. You meet the person who designed it. He trusts you because you compliment his shoes, which I thought was funny. And you get one Snake line where he goes, Metal Gear, one, as a treat. So I thought that was cute. But as far as Metal Gear fights, I think the Shagohod fight is probably the best in the series so far. I tend to hate the Metal Gear fights in the other games. This one was fine.
This one is, I think, once you know what to do, I think it's the easiest. Whereas, yeah, like the original Metal Gear is a pain in the butt. Oh my God. This one, It's like, oh no, you hit the wheel. Now it can't turn. You get behind it. You shoot it in the back. And if you don't know what to do, another thing, it's nice. There's a hint system in this game, basically through your codec, that if you're like in a boss fight and you're like, I don't know what to do, you can radio your buddies and they'll give you hints. They'll be like, oh, the armor plating is really weak on the back. You should try and get behind it. And you're like, oh, thanks. And they'll kind of give you hints with any of the bosses. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And you could like keep calling and call different people and they'll kind of give you little different things. But yeah, so like basically the integrated hint system is helpful if it's your first time around and you haven't played these before.
Also, if you tuned out during a cutscene and forgot or missed like the instructions for what to do, you can just call the major and he'll be like, go here, look for this. And I'm like, okay, got it. So that was nice.
I could not remember how much you fought Volgin because you fight him a lot in many different ways. And I didn't remember. Like at the end of the game, I was like, particularly like as far as the gameplay, how the last couple boss fights work out, I did not recall. So I'm fighting Volgin at the bottom of this like little pit. And I was like, this is the worst. Like, this is the big bad, like, head of like the guy who's been like the most intimidating aside from the boss throughout the whole game. And I'm like, this is his boss fight? I'm like, you must be joking. And then you're escaping. And then all of a sudden he's like, yelling. And you see him in the Shagohod. And you're like, oh, okay. Okay, it all makes sense now. Because that stupid little pit fight is a waste of time.
Pushover. Yeah.
It's a waste of everybody's time. It's just to have Ocelot like look down and then like make decisions and basically show that like he's not with Volgin, more or less.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fight's dumb.
Speaking of Volgin, real quick, before we talk about the final boss fight and then talk about like the story, there's this really fucking weird thing that happened that I have like, it made me dissociate a little bit and like question, did I boot up the right game? Like what's going on here? So there's a part where Snake gets captured and Volgin's torturing him. And there's this whole thing. The boss is there. Eva's there. Ocelot's there. There's a whole fucking thing. The boss comes over. She shoots Snake in the leg and then puts the gun in his holster. And that is Snake's way to get out. So the boss is helping Snake, even though she's supposedly defected. She's helping Snake escape from this. You wake up in a prison cell and you have to heal Snake up and all of this stuff. Now, I got to this point and I was like, okay, time to stop playing. So I saved. I didn't do a save state. I did like the in-game save. I quit the game. And when I loaded the game back up, I was in this Muso game. It looked like you're fighting these weird fucking
I've
things.
I've heard of this and I never did it. And I'm fascinated. I need to look this up after.
Yeah. So you're in like a parking garage or like a warehouse or something like that. And you're just fighting these monsters over. You're not playing as Snake. You're playing as a character that has swords. It's very fucking weird. And after 5 to 10 minutes of just Muso killing these enemies, Snake wakes up and then you're back in the game. And I was like, what the fuck? Like literally I booted this up and I was like, this has the same color palette as Metal Gear Solid 3, but like maybe other PS2 games. Did I boot up the wrong game? Because I'm picking from my emulator menu.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is the right game. And then eventually it stopped. But I was like, what the fuck is happening here? And I had wondered if you'd seen that before.
No. I know I saw it in your show notes and I was like, I might have to reinstall the game and load up because I've got a bunch of different saves that I'm sure I can find one that's very close to when you get captured.
and I could easily just do this. And I'm like, I think I'm going to have to, because that's so weird. And it's like in one spot. It's in one specific part of this game. If you do this thing, this whole other game, they built that little mini game.
Yeah.
For only if you save the game and close it while you're in that cell specifically, and then reload it up, and then it's going to happen. That's the only time, as far as I'm aware of.
Yeah. I mean, it never happened again. I just did a quick game facts search, and it doesn't appear that it's in the version of the game that you played. People are saying they cut it out from the HD collection from the Xbox 360, which is, I think they did the new HD version from those old HD collections. So it might not be in the one that you...
okay. I'll just have to YouTube it then.
Yeah, it's real fucking weird. I'm glad I played the PS2 version instead of the one that's re-released. Yeah, I was like, what is happening? And then I was like, okay, this might be Snake's dream. He's dreaming or something like that. So
that's so cool.
Other notable thing, there's a character that you have to impersonate, steal his clothes, that looks like Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2. His name is Colonel Ivan Raidenovich Rykov. And he's just got Raiden's face. And you have to get a mask and his clothes and impersonate him. And I thought this was really fucking weird because Volgin sees through your disguise, and the way that he sees through your disguise is he grabs Snake's balls, and he's like, oh, you're not Raidenovich. I know what his balls feel like, or something like, I don't know what's going on with this. What is going on here, Katie?
It's weird. Okay, so obviously, Kojima likes to like reference his own games sometimes, or he'll kind of do winking nods to the audience. And the fact that you have to, because a lot of people were very, very angry that you played as Raiden, that they did that switcheroo in Metal Gear Solid 2, because they're like, oh no, I want to be Snake, and they're mad. And also Raiden's kind of annoying, and he's kind of whiny. I don't really mind it. I think it's fine. I don't mind it at all. Raiden. I love it. But a lot of people were really, really mad. So I think this is his winking nod to the audience, but I question the intention of what the joke is. Yeah. And I think it's really cringy, because I think, so one, you kill Raidenovich and shove him in a locker. And I think that's, his winking nod, like, haha, don't worry, we killed him. Shoved him in a locker. We're not going to see him again. But then I feel like you're implying that Raiden is gay, or, whatever sexuality, but it's implied as kind of a negative, I assume, because everyone hates Raiden so much, that then he's doing winking nods. So then he makes him having like a gay affair with his colonel. I'm assuming that he's portraying that as like a bad thing. A romantic thing with your superior, that's not good. But I mean, I feel like it's specifically because it is a gay relationship, but I don't know. Yeah. But that's the vibe I get, which makes it icky. The thing itself is funny. Like, I'm like, oh, like, because Snake would never think that. Like, he's like, how is he going to see through my disguise? He can't talk because the mask's mouth doesn't move. So like, oh, maybe he'll figure it out that way because he can't say anything back to him. No, he's going to figure out by just like swinging his hand up and grabbing him. And you're like, whoa. And it's just very unexpected. And it would be funny. But because it's as you're Raiden, and because he's trying to like knock on Raiden, I take it as like a gay is bad thing. So I don't know. The whole scene was super cringy for me for that specific reason. Yeah,
I didn't see it as like a gay is bad thing, because that's all left up to your, I guess, like your interpretation, or not your interpretation. You're putting the pieces together, because I don't think they outright say like,
no, they don't.
They're in a relationship, or they are intimate or anything like that.
It's heavily implied. He's like, why aren't you in my office? And then grabs his junk.
Yeah.
I think we know why. But yeah, I am interpreting that you are appealing to the audience in that way and implying that this is a negative connotation. I am reading into that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that is why that scene got cringy for me. Other than that, I think it's kind of funny.
It was definitely played as a joke that, like, here's this thing we can take advantage of, but because he can get close to Volgin. But yeah, the unexpected that apparently Volgin does this to Raidenovich all the time in official capacities at work. And then that's how he sees through Snake's disguise. I just thought it was really weird.
He knows the shape of his parts so well that even through pants, he's like, nope, that's not you. Like, that's funny.
That's not Raidenovich. Who are you? So, weird. Very, very weird scene. Weird little bit in general, just to bring Raiden back like this. See, I didn't see it as killing Raiden because I didn't kill him. I just choked him out like I do most people in the game. Or I like tranked him or something like that. I didn't kill him though, but I can see it that way if that's what you do, as a little wink to all the people that were mad about Metal Gear Solid 2. And then Raiden comes back in Metal Gear Solid 4, and then he's the star of Rising Revengeance. So
what?
Yeah.
I've never played Rising Revengeance. I need to play that.
It's my favorite Metal Gear game, like by a lot.
Oh my God.
I fucking love that game. Even Jacob liked it.
Yeah, even Jacob liked it. Yeah, that's going to be on my short list of backlog games, is I need to play that game.
Yeah, and it's pretty short. 5 to 10 hours, depending on how hard you find it. It's good. You like Sekiro, so you'll find stuff to like in there. And then we have the final boss against the boss. The final boss, lowercase b, where you fight against the boss, capital T, capital B. So, like, I feel like we've kind of skipped some story along the way, but it's kind of okay because that's how the game kind of goes too. Like, this is the ultimate goal, is once you have accomplished the other missions or failed some of them, you were not able to rescue Sokolov, he gets killed. The final mission is to assassinate the boss. And so you meet in this field of white flowers, which has become a kind of trope around video games for big boss fights. We just mentioned Sekiro. The final boss of Sekiro takes place in a field of white flowers. Mm-hmm. So you fight against the boss, and before they talk, she tells Snake that she knows this is how it has to end, and that Snake must defeat her and inherit the title of boss. And after doing so, he will face a life of endless battle. And she sets a 10-minute timer. So before we talk about this story and what's actually going on here, let's talk about the actual fight. So it's on a 10-minute timer, real time. It is a cat and mouse stealth boss fight. If she sees you, she will run up and do melee combat. And I don't want to say everybody, but I lost these confrontations like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you can kind of counter her or get the first hit in and then knock her down, but most of the time she's going to fuck you up. And what it does, it doesn't hurt you that much, but it will take time off the clock. And that's time that you're not hurting her. So what you have to do is you have to hide in the flowers, find where she is. The heat vision goggles that you mentioned earlier are a little bit, like, they're still very powerful here, but there's also snakes hanging from trees around that you see that, you know, that light, that white from a living thing. You're like, there she is. Nope, just a snake hanging from a tree. So what you have to do is find her, shoot her, maybe run and hide, reposition, try not to get caught. And I failed this many, many times. I hate this final boss fight a lot.
Oh, no. What's many, many times? Like 5?
Over 10.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I spent easily 2 to 3 hours working on this fight.
Oh, okay. I understand then, because that's a long time.
Because it's a 10-minute timer. Every failed attempt was 10 minutes long.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I got it on my third try. Yeah, I heat vision goggled and then just like laid down in the flowers and they would just crawl and hope that I would like catch a glimpse of her. Because that's another thing is when you're crawling, you can't really see very far. So you kind of have to be close enough that you'll be able to see her. But yeah, I would just kind of crawl. And then once I spotted her, I was like, okay. And then I just crawl at her and then I would shotgun her. And then when you shotgun her and she stands up, you can get a quick second one in before she does anything. So I try and get 2 hits in and then bolt. But if you are having trouble finding her, the time goes fast. 10 minutes sounds like a long time. It is not. And then the music kicks in, which I love that music. But then you're like, oh no, the music's kicking in. And it gives you that like, oh shit, I'm running out of time. And then she'll start telling you, she's like 3 minutes left. And you're like, oh shit. Yep. And if you have like half the health bar left, you're like, I'm not making it. It's not going to happen this time.
Yep. She has a lot of health. I use the sniper rifle because I didn't want to get close to her because she just kicked my ass in melee combat. So I would try to hang out on the other side of the arena and use the sniper rifle, which doesn't do a ton more damage, but it does do some more damage. The time that I won, it was literally like 15 seconds left on the clock. The song is almost over. You're right. When that song kicks in, you know, you're struggling and you're like, or you're on, like me, you're on attempt like 14 and you're fucking mad. And then what a thrill. You're like, come on. But I don't know. I like the idea of it, but I think if it just wasn't on a timer, you know, because she killed me outright a couple times too. If it wasn't on a timer, if the timer was more generous, I wouldn't have had such a hard time, but I had a real hard time with it. So, it was almost to the point where I would have looked up a cheat just to skip it and watch the ending. But I did eventually get it.
That's fair. I was going to say you had to have been close to just being like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm done. Yeah. I've had enough. So for me, it was kind of the perfect balance of challenging where I was like, I got to figure out how to get this done in 10 minutes. And it was right in that sweet spot where it makes it an enjoyable challenge. But I could easily see it, being incredibly frustrating. I'm glad you still like the song.
Oh, yeah. The song rules. I can't hold the, boss fight design against that song.
Yeah. Another thing that she can do when she melees you is actually take your gun and, like, throw it along with a bunch of your ammo. And you're like, oh, come on. And now you're running around trying to get your gun back because I was like, no, I need my shotgun back because that's how I'm doing this. And then she's just shooting you or kicking you while you're doing it. And you're like, oh, this is just embarrassing.
That is pretty funny that because like throughout the game, like we said, every time you get in a little fight with her, she kicks your ass. She disarms Snake, throws him down, breaks his arm. She throws him off of a rope bridge above a river one time, like early in the game. And then she's still toying with you in this fight. I didn't know that she could take your weapons and throw them, but that's even funnier.
Oh, yeah. Just like how earlier she would take whatever, like his gun, and she like takes it apart in one motion and then just like drops the pieces. She's basically doing that, but in the gameplay, which is, I like that. It's not executed perfectly. There are a lot of things in this game that are like, oh, that's cool, but the execution just doesn't feel that good. And this is like one of them for sure. But I like the boss fight. It looks cool. She's cool also. Like the entire game, you're like, God, she's so cool. And then the boss fight itself looks good. It sounds good. The music's kicking in. It sounds great. So it's like, I don't know, it's this balancing act of like things that are positive about it and things that are negative.
Yeah, I like everything about it except the act of doing it. Like the aesthetics, the character, everything about it's awesome. I just got very frustrated.
In retrospect, so playing this as an adult who has since like played a lot more video games and tries to think about them in a bit more of like an analytical way and like absorbs things a bit more than I used to when I was a teenager. I was like, yeah, that was a cool fight. Bah, bah, bah. But now I appreciate that. So we are beyond the spoiler wall. You find out afterwards that the boss turns out never actually defected was actually on the American side and then basically accepted that she had to die in order for the US to absolve themselves of any fault of the explosion earlier in the game. Mm-hmm. The only reason that you can beat the boss is that she kind of lets you. Mm-hmm. Is because she knows that she has to die and she is willing to die for her country. So it makes sense because you're not better than you were earlier in the game, really. Like you haven't advanced your skills. You're not anything special, more special than you were earlier in the game. But she just lets you now. And you don't know that when you're doing it. But then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's why I can beat her now. Because otherwise, how can you explain that you suddenly can beat her? Like, no, if she chose to kill me, she'd kill me. Yeah. But she doesn't. I think that's great. Yeah.
So she kind of plays this role because she was still on this mission, infiltrating this group with Volgin and the Cobra unit and all of that. She was doing that while also basically taking the fall for the entire thing for the government. And we talked about the lyrics of Snake Eater earlier and that goofy side where they're talking about, some days you eat a tree frog or whatever the line is. The first few lines of that song, or in the chorus, I'll say, the chorus of Snake Eater starts with, "I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else," which is basically her spelling out what's going to happen to her and why she's doing this. So I think that she could only accept that this is the way she had to die if it was going to be Snake that did it. So that was her choice, was to, I guess if she had a choice of the way that she was going to die, she wanted Snake to be the one to do it. And all of the things that you learn about her role here, you learn after the fight. Yeah. And I really think that the emotional weight of that fight would have been greater if you knew this before the fight, but you had this inevitability to the confrontation. Like, both of us know we shouldn't be fighting right now to this like super strong degree. Snake still probably thinks that she's a traitor to some degree. So it's his mission. He has to kill her. And like, he might be questioning a little bit, but he doesn't know how wrong it is. And I really feel like if you had just learned that one little bit before the fight, it would have made that hit a lot more than the dump of information after the fight where you look back on what you did. But the other side of that is, who is Snake getting information from in here? Yeah. The government's not going to tell him the truth before he does the job, before he finishes the job, we'll say. He would have had to have gotten it from Ocelot or Volgin or somebody else. So I guess it does make sense in that way. It's just a little bit of like what could have been if they made a different decision, Like, I don't think that it's terrible or something, but just me kind of saying, what if? Yeah. And the boss she wouldn't tell him because she's very much like the stoic soldier. Like, this is what I have to do, so I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to make it harder for him. Like, it's already harder. I mean, you do feel that like inevitability, but it would make that last fight, I guess, a bit sadder and a bit more solemn than it already is. I mean, the emotions are there already. They're just, I don't know. It's held back a little bit. Yeah, it could have been stronger if both characters know that they shouldn't be doing this, but they feel like they're being forced into it both by the government in some way. I mean, they're both doing it because of duty, right? Yeah. Like, the reasons are the same. It's just the specific angle that it's coming from is different. But like, they are still doing like, I have my duty, you have my duty. As she has stated the entire game, friends today could be enemies tomorrow. We soldiers go where the winds take us and what governments decide and how things shift. And like, it's there. It's just, see, I feel less strongly about this, but I feel more strongly that I wish we knew more about Eva before the end. Because Eva is so much more interesting after like the last run of cutscenes.
And I'm like, oh, this explains so much, and that character is so much cooler than I thought before. And I didn't have any time to like sit in that with it. And it reminded me of the movie Bombshell with Charlize Theron.
Okay.
Spoilers, if anyone wants to watch Bombshell and hasn't yet. But I'm basically spoiling the end of the movie. I'm so sorry. You can still watch the movie. It's great. It doesn't affect your enjoyment of the movie. But basically at the very end, the last thing, you're like, oh, actually, her allegiances are this. And you're like, oh, but that's like one of the main that's the main character. And I'm finding out after everything's done what her motivations are. And it's like, I would have liked to have been in it with her. Yeah. And known her motivations, and that would have been cooler instead of the movie being like, haha, got you at the very end. It's like, no, I want to be in it with that person. At the very end, they're like, haha, got you. Eva is a totally different person. And looking back, you're like, oh, everything that she does makes sense. Her like being super flirty with Snake the whole time just felt kind of weak in the moment. And it's like, this is what you're worried about. This is what you're paying attention to. And at the end, you're like, oh no, that's her plan. She did that for a purpose. And like everything that she did was calculated and had a motivation. But in the moment, you think that she's just kind of silly and like a wannabe soldier. Like, yeah. So I wish that we knew a little bit more about Eva earlier, and I would have appreciated her more throughout the game. And it doesn't have to be the whole game, like just the fifth, even if I'm like, oh, if I know a bit more about her, I would have appreciated these scenes better.
We kind of learn about Eva's, that she's not totally who she says she is, because she has, she's double crossing Volgin by pretending to be somebody else. So I think she showcases a little bit of like deception, but you have no reason to think that's where it ends, which is something that like Metal Gear stories always do this. Like, you might sniff out one plot twist, but there are 3 plot twists and you're never going to guess the other 2 or something like that. I think that, like, now that I'm thinking about it and now that we're talking through it, I think a lot of this does make sense. I'm still a little bit like frustrated by the pacing of all of these games.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit frustrated by like dropping the bombshell on us, the players, but it does make a little bit more sense here because I think we get the same information at the same speed as Snake does.
Yeah.
So Snake is getting a bomb dropped on him at the end, and we experience it the same way.
Yeah, because we don't see anything that Snake doesn't see.
There might be a few cutscenes of like Ocelot talking to Volgin or
even
something
then, though,
like that.
Snake is up in the mountains and he is like binocular watching them.
That's right.
So he's there. Like, we are never completely detached from Snake.
Yeah.
So it does make sense.
Yeah. Even if we are wishing for a little bit of like, what if Snake learned the truth about the boss right before he had to go fight her? And then you had this extra layer to that boss fight, and that extra layer to that feeling that she's letting you win or something like that. Like, the way it's given, you kind of get the feeling that like she defected, but she had second thoughts because then she helped you get out of prison. She helped you do that. She saved Eva earlier in the story. Like, she's trying to atone, and then she lets you kill her so that there's an end to it and she can rest or something like that. But then you learn like the real truth later. And I don't know. I don't think it's bad, but I mean, I actually think it's quite good now that I'm looking at it through the lens of like, we get information at the same time that Snake does. So it might be just, wish casting, saying like, what if Snake knew and that final confrontation was all the more emotional because of it? The ending is still really
it's still emotional. You're still hitting the same beats.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would have Eva, how you would have that reveal before the end, because the whole thing is that she is trying to steal the philosopher's
legacy.
Something. Yeah.
Which I thought it was funny. They called it an ancient treasure at the beginning of the game. And it turns out it was created during World War I, which this game takes place in 1964. 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
50.
Ancient treasure. I was like, oh, okay, they found something in a pyramid or some shit. I was like, nope, it's just $100 billion that they collected during World War I. So she's trying to steal that. And this is how you're getting all this exposition at the end, is this tape that Eva recorded and left for Snake that's playing, that tells him the whole truth about the boss, the whole truth about herself, all of that. So I really like the way this is presented, because it starts, she and Snake spend the night together, and Snake wakes up the next morning, she's gone, he hits play on this tape, she tells him the truth, and then in that recording, the scene shifts to Snake back in like Washington or something, being awarded by the president for a job well done. And it's still telling, Eva's narration is still happening over the top of this. So Snake is given the title of Big Boss and a medal from the president. The president goes to shake his hand and Snake refuses to, which I thought was cool. And then he eventually does shake the president's hand, and then like some other dipshit politician comes up and wants to shake his hand, and Snake's like, nah, and he leaves.
Yeah.
Then he goes out to her grave. It is an unmarked, unremarkable grave. And like the narration over the top is talking about how she will be forever known as a traitor, when we know this is not the truth. Her grave just says the person who saved the world or saved the United States or something like that. But it doesn't have her name on it, because what she did was she thwarted a nuclear catastrophe, basically, by doing this. So while this narration is playing, Snake puts flowers down on her grave. He puts her gun down on the grave she gave to him as she was dying at the end of that boss fight. And then Snake salutes, and he sheds a tear as he's looking at the grave. And this is that part. The music, it's the Metal Gear Solid theme song, but it's really slow and it's really fucking sad during this part. And I never thought that Metal Gear Solid story would bring tears to my eyes, but this ending was really, really well done. For any complaints about the pacing at which they give you information, even if we do see why they did it that way, any complaints that you might have, I think this ending, where you're processing this information at the same speed that Snake is processing all of this, and the person that he looked up to, his mentor, is now known as a traitor to everybody. He killed her, and the president gave him a medal for it, and all of these complex emotions are going on while he's saluting at her grave. And everyone around him in that ceremony is clapping, by the way, which I thought was like, oh, that's brutal. So this is really, really good. I think it's like by far the best story, cinematic content, any of the Metal Gear games I've played so far.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is by far the most emotionally significant, like compact, like story, like ending to a story that makes sense and it hits all your points. Mm-hmm. Like it is emotionally meaningful. There's not that much wasted. Everything has purpose, like you said. Like the ending of 2, I'm sorry, there is so much wasted nonsense because I don't care about the Patriots. Like I don't actually care about any of that stuff. Like the Illuminati type things. Like realistically, it's a neat story element, but I don't care. So if you're going to spend 25 minutes monologuing about the Patriots, I'll listen to it because like it's weird, but I don't care. Whereas this is like, no, this is purpose. He's like you said, he's getting a medal for a thing that he hated that he had to do. that he probably shouldn't have had to do, but that's what, you know, being a soldier means. And they're applauding him, and he resents, and you can tell he resents it because he's not like, you can tell what he thinks of those people too. And what their congratulations mean to him, like not that much. It all has purpose and it all hits. And I don't really have any notes on this one. Like, it's just good. It's very, very good.
Yeah, the thing with the end of Metal Gear Solid 2 was I actually really love the content that they talk about at the end. The problem is it is an entire game's worth of philosophy and ideas in a 25-minute cutscene, and it's just way too much. This one is, I mean, again, we've talked a little bit about pacing and like what could they have done differently to not shove this all on you at the end, but they made the choice to shove this all on us the way that it was all shoved on Snake and the way that it's all pulled off. And I really like this, the way that it's presented, this whirlwind of things that's happening. He learns about it, and then he's getting a medal, and then people are shaking his hand and clapping for the, you know, he followed his duty, but his duty meant, you know, killing the closest person to him because she was set up for something that she didn't do, and she had to take the fall for it. Like, the entire thing is bullshit. So you can, like you said, you can see how much he resents everything that's happening here. And then she had told him, like, during that boss fight, you have to kill me now, and the rest of your life will be this endless battle, basically. And you can kind of see that beginning during this ending here. And it's just really, really well done. I mean, you got to give credit. Like, I think I said for a while when I was playing this game, I was going through it and being like, yeah, the pain is funny, and, you know, the fear is funny, and the end was a cool boss fight. But in like Volgan shooting electricity and shit, like, that's kind of cool. But why does everyone love this game so much? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. It's a lot all at once, but I get it. So this, it's really, really powerful here. And you can kind of see the other puzzle pieces fall into place after this is over. You learn a little bit about how the philosophers, the people who put together this treasure, it was initially 3 countries cooperating, America, China, and the Soviet Union. The American version of the philosophers became the Patriots, so you have that origin story there. You learn about the, I can't say, this is French, I'm not saying this shit, but the project to create...
Les enfants terribles.
There we go. See, that's exactly what I would have said. Yeah. The project to clone Solid and Liquid Snake from Solidus Snake, I suppose, from Big Boss, from fuck the names, the new Big Boss, Naked Snake in this game. You see where that comes from, and then you get the fucking double crossing, triple crossing Ocelot at the end. So Eva thinks that she stole the philosopher's legacy, like data chip, but she stole a fake. Now, the Soviets, I think, still have the treasure at the end because Ocelot was double crossing everybody.
There's like too many double crosses.
Yeah,
there's too many where I'm like, let's calm it down just a little bit.
Ocelot's a main figure through a lot of the rest of the series, from what I understand. I have 4 and 5 and Peace Walker to play. I like that Ocelot's a character that's in all or most of the games.
I think it's the only character. I think it's the only consistent character. Because Snake is not consistent, right?
Yeah. Snake is consistent, but it's not the same Snake because, of course. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on here plot-wise. But after that big emotional bombshell, you know, you're hearing Ocelot on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, okay, like, you double-cross everybody, that's cool. I'll see you in the next game. We'll see what's going on.
I love that that's the send-off. Okay, the plane whole segment, which was also funny earlier when Eva's like, Eva's hurt, and Snake's like, no, you have to keep going. I need you. And she's like, what? Say that again? And he's like, I need you. I can't fly the wig myself. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it was so deflating. But anyway, so she's flying the wig, and it's not rising because ocelots on the plane, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this plane's too heavy because there are 3 adults in it. Like, what kind of plane is this?
And it's a big, it's a, relatively speaking, it's like a big, like,
It's
military cargo plane.
Yeah,
like,
it's the plane that, like, paratroopers jump out of.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you could surely hold more than 3 people.
But yeah, that whole segment with Ocelot, and he's like, he basically just wants to hang out with Snake one last time because he helped him get away. Like, he helped him at the end game. But then he's like, no, I want to fight with you one last time because I really think Ocelot just thinks that that Naked Snake is cool.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I want to like whip around my revolvers one more time and like, let's hang out one more time. And I'm like, oh, buddy, you're being so needy. But
it's like that. It's has the same feeling of like a lot of I'm out of my depth here, but like a lot of Japanese media will have like these rival characters for your protagonist.
Yeah.
And that's what Ocelot, that feeling that he's giving off here. Like, one more fight just because we're 2 badasses and, you know, we got to fight because fighting's the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
And then like they fist fight in the plane, and then Ocelot, like once he's satisfied, he just jumps out of the plane, no parachute, just into a lake.
He's basically like, well, see you later, man. Like, see you later, buddy. Till next time. And then, jumps out of the plane. It's great.
Yeah. See you in Metal Gear Solid 5, I guess. I think that's the next one in the timeline, maybe. I know that's
I think so.
Pre-Shadow Moses.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Metal Gear Solid 3. Anything else we want to mention before we wrap up here?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, we could keep talking for 2 more hours, but I don't think we need to. Like, I think
probably
we covered
could.
it.
I could get another half-hour material out of the pain easily. So.
Oh yeah.
Katie, thanks so much for coming on and talking Metal Gear 3 with me and putting up with all the internet issues that the listeners were completely unaware of until I just mentioned them here.
Absolutely. Nothing happened. Everything went super smoothly the entire time. Thank you for having me. Like I said, thank you for giving me a reason to go back and replay these games because I wanted to already. And I'm like, yes, I will absolutely do this. And I've had a wonderful time, and I've had a great time talking about it with somebody else and being able to hash it out for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We'll be happy to have you back sometime. And for everybody listening, one more call for you to go down in the show notes, check out everything Left Behind Game Club and Cutscenes. Lots of good podcasting material for you down there. So again, as we're signing off, as you're listening to the music at the end of the episode, go look for some topics and podcasts you'd like to listen to from the things Katie's doing, and you will not regret it. So, with all of that being said, all that we can do is say thank you to everyone who listens all the way to the end. Like always, you are my hero, and tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.